I'm live, and I want to keep this democracy alive. So, what do I mean? Do it for Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Exactly what I meant, to keep our representative democracy alive. I like free societies. I do not like totalitarian dictatorships. Not one bit. Hmm. Sorry, I'm kind of thirsty right now. A little bit about myself in this before I go into the commentary, because it applies to people like myself that found the Democratic Party as problematic for not being sufficiently left wing enough. You know, the people that supported Bernie Sanders over the years, us troublemakers, the new wave of progressives coming around saying that we're not going to take this third way Clinton-esque crap anymore. The era of diet republicanism is over for the Democratic Party. People like myself, and I'm a mixed bag. I voted. I never. I mean, I probably voted for maybe about two Republicans in my 51 years of living, and I voted for them in small election, municipal and county elections where they can do no damage. Other than that, I have voted pretty much the majority of the people I voted for were Democrats. I have voted Greens whenever possible. I have voted Socialist whenever possible, and that's not to change. But so all my life, I have voted. This has been my voting pattern when it comes to presidents. At the age of 19, I voted for Michael Dukakis. That was my first vote. It was a fairly enthusiastic vote because I've always detested the Bush family. In 1992, I was a Jerry Brown supporter in the Democratic primaries, but ultimately ended up voting for Bill Clinton for president as a lesser evil to George W. Bush or George Herbert Walker Bush. Um, a decision that I really regret making, not because I have any love for the Bush family, because let me tell you, nobody despises the Bush family more than I do. Should have voted for H. Ross Perot in the election of 1992 if I could turn back the time. And if I really was more organized in 1992, turning back the time, I would have rather done the proper paperwork to get Quinn Brisbane on the ballot for the Socialist Party USA. Because in 1992, really, J. Quinn Brisbane, the late J. Quinn Brisbane, was the candidate to support in that election. Um, I kind of like to refer to him as a Marxist Colonel Sanders. And if you ever see the man, or if you ever see a picture of the man, you know what I'm talking about. Um, so I voted for Bill Clinton in 1992. Got very disillusioned with the Democrats for not being left wing enough, and actually shifting uh, alarmingly away from the things that I like Democrats for historically and politically. So I voted. I decided to go with a third party vote in 1996. I tried to get Mary Cal Hollis on the ballot for the Socialist Party USA. Was not able to, but I wrote in Ralph Nader, who was the independent candidate running at that time with the Green Party. In 2000, I voted for David McReynolds. Got him on the ballot as a write-in in North Carolina. Was able to vote for David McReynolds. In 2004, we got Walter Brown of the Socialist Party once again on the ballot as a write-in, just as we did David McReynolds, and was able to vote for Walt Brown in the 2004 election. In 2008, as a write-in, independent write-in, I voted for Ralph Nader because says that John McCain and Barack Obama were just not. I was just not interested. In 2012, I wanted to vote for Jill Stein or Stuart Alexander. Jill Stein from the Green Party or Stuart Alexander for the Socialist Party USA. And neither of them were available as write-ins, and I didn't want to vote for Barack Obama, and sure as hell didn't want to vote for Mitt Romney. So I, with reluctance because I detest libertarian economics, I still voted for Gary Johnson. In 2016, I went and supported Bernie Sanders in the primaries, and I I have a problem with the Clintons, so I went and voted for Jill Stein, the Green Party. It's a write-in. In 2020, again, I was a Bernie Sanders supporter with very sympathetic, almost almost equivalent to my support for Bernie Sanders. I really like Tulsi Gabbard too. Both of them got shafted by the Democratic establishment, and here's where I meet the grub. I like Howie Hawkins. My heart and my soul is with the Green Party. My heart and soul is with the Howie Hawkins campaign. A giant, however, has to be added to this. My heart and my soul tells me vote Howie Hawkins. My brain tells me to vote for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. And let me just tell you, it's a cold vote. It is a vote. I will not give money to Joe Biden. I will not canvass for Joe Biden. I will not give the Biden or Harris ticket any warm fuzzies and platitudes. It'll just be a vote. I despise them, but I despise Donald Trump and Mike Pence even more. Now, why, of all times, and why would I go and vote for a candidate I despise? Our representative democracy is in danger. If Donald Trump is reelected, I don't think we're going to be we're not even going to be the hollow, pretentious dog and pony show of a representative democracy that we claim to be. I think that totalitarianism, sorry, is around the corner with Trump's reelection. I mean, the man has promised or basically threatened to use the Insurrection Act against, he claims, against violent looters and violent radical activists. But when you hear a lot of these right wingers talk about these violent looters and violent activists, they pretty much say anybody on the left. It really is about silencing and shutting up the left. And that's what the Insurrection Act is about. Is attacks the First Amendment, attacks the freedom of speech, it attacks the right of assembly, the right of association. I mean, and that's what it comes down to. They want to sit there and shut down the left. And I'm not having it. With Joe Biden, all that is negative. I got a lot of negative things to say about Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. But I do not think that dissent would be silenced under Joe Biden or Kamala Harris. They're corporatist shields. They placate to the military-industrial complex. They're soft neocons in a lot of ways, but all that is a lesser evil to looming fascism that's around the corner. Do not want to see the United States turn into Chile under Augusto Pinochet, or modern Brazil as Jair Bolsonaro is trying to do down in that country, to basically have a right-wing fascist dictatorship. I say no dice to that. But having that said, with my tactical, critical support, lukewarm vote for Joe Biden, this is what I'm going to tell people who have a different voting strategy from mine in 2020. I will not vote Shane. If you want to vote third party, it's understandable. That's like, I mean, we're talking about choosing cat shit versus dog shit. It's still shit at the end of the day. And I understand that mentality. If you're in a safe blue state and voting for the Democrats is icky, by all means, vote third party. If you're in a hopelessly right-wing red state, vote third party. if you're in a purple state, a swing state, please think about what you're going to do. Because I want third parties to do well, but at the same time, I want to say this representative democracy. And if you're in a swing state, it might be irresponsible for my judgment to exercise a right that I would normally have done under normal circumstances. I live in a purple state. North Carolina is a purple state. I kind of think it's going to go to Trump anyway, but I'm going to do what I can for it not to with just a cold vote. That is all I'm going to do. So you're not going to get any vote shaming either way. But there is a website called Settle for Biden, and it was designed for people like myself, leftists that are critical of the Democratic Party, but we're scared to death of what's going to happen with another Trump presidency. And that is probably the one conundrum where leftists and even centrists share. Because while the leftists and centrists, the corporate Democrats and progressives snipe at each other, there is just enough overlap between progressives and corporate Democrats to realize what a bigger danger a Trump presidency is. And I highly recommend for you to go and check the Settle for Biden website. The only problem I have with the Settle for Biden website is the Green Party bashing. I'm a little bit I find that kind of problematic. But I would say, and there is a meme on that site, Settle for Biden, and it says, "Do it for Ruth Bader Ginsburg." And that's what I'm doing it for. I'm doing this for Ruth Bader Ginsburg because even though she was appointed by President Bill Clinton, a U.S. Associate Justice, Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, is the last reminder of what the Supreme Court was like during the era of Chief Justice Earl Warren. And if for many of you who are too young to remember the Warren Court, and even when I was born, the Warren Court was became the Warren Burger Court as opposed to previously the Earl Warren Court. But it was still enough of the hangover from the Warren Court that their civil liberties were still being expanded in the 70s. But here's the thing. She is the last of that court, the Earl Warren Court. If you're not familiar with the Earl Warren Court, Earl Warren was a Republican who was appointed by President Dwight Eisenhower to become Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. And from the time of Eisenhower all the way up to the time of Reagan, the Supreme Court, most of the Supreme Court justices had a civil libertarian view of the Constitution. They erred on the side of freedom of speech, of right to privacy, freedom of religion as well as freedom from religion, and that it means the same thing. They err on the side of individualism. And since the days of Reagan, the Supreme Court started shifting further and further right. But even prior to Reagan appointing the court justices, there were some reactionaries in the court, like Associate Justice William Rehnquist, appointed by Richard Nixon. But some of the other justices that Nixon appointed were fairly moderate. So, as during the age of Reagan and every Republican president after Ronald Reagan had on their mind to try to reverse the things the way they were, to reverse the judicial activism of the Earl Warren Court. Now, before somebody criticized me for embracing Earl Warren era Supreme Court for engaging in judicial activism, but that's what the Reagan era has done on the Republican side. It's their version of judicial activism. This is why you ended up. I remember in the late 80s when Ronald Reagan tried to appoint Robert Bork, a hardcore reactionary, and that caused a shitstorm. And people like Anthony Scalia, what have you, George Herbert Walker Bush appointing Clarence Thomas. A very terrible choice, especially considering when Thurgood Marshall stepped down from the courts. And over the years, the Republicans having their mindset, Republican presidents having the mindset to put reactionaries on the court. Now, occasionally, they will still surprise you. Like, for example, I'm not a fan of Chief Justice John Roberts, who was appointed by George W. Bush, but he's done a few. He sided on with the court majority on a few controversial issues that side on the side of civil liberties. And such as the recent court ruling on discrimination or anti-discrimination in regard to the LGBTQ community. And for that, I'm grateful to John Roberts and Neil Gorsuch, who was appointed by Donald Trump. And I'm sure that was more of an accident than anything else by Donald Trump. But there's still some asses on the Supreme Court, like Brett Kavanaugh. And so basically, this is a very dangerous precedent, because if Donald Trump is reelected, and especially if he's removed or died while he's in office in the next 4 years, I hardly doubt that Mike Pence is going to find justices that are more moderate than what Donald Trump would choose. So my strategic argument for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris is that while I'm not a fan of Biden or Harris, I trust their judgment a hell of a lot more than I would almost any other Republican president running. During the Obama years, when Anthony Scalia died, and some people came with a conspiracy theory that Barack Obama had Scalia murdered. Really? Anyway, Obama appointed a generic centrist by the name of Merrick Garland. And what did Mitch McConnell do? He obstructed. That's why I don't have a problem when Democrats have a backbone when it comes to Supreme Court nominees, and they try to do everything they can to stop the Republicans from appointing from Republican presidents from appointing certain justices. I wish that they would do what Mitch McConnell did, but on the left. But unfortunately, a lot of Democrats don't have the cruel streak that someone like a Mitch McConnell has. But when it comes to the Supreme Court, I'm doing it for Ruth Bader Ginsburg. This means protecting the First Amendment, protecting LGBTQ rights, protecting right to privacy. And as an opponent of capital punishment, I think that the Supreme Court voting to abolish the death penalty is going to happen probably more under a pick from a Democratic president than it will be a Republican president, in spite of sadly too many Democratic presidents supporting the death penalty. I think that the likelihood of the death penalty being abolished would be greater under a court appointee by a Democratic president. And I'm saying this as somebody who's very he doesn't like the two-party system. And the Supreme Court ruling years ago, the Citizens United, that really pretty much basically declare corporations and business entities as exercising their free speech right by allowing them to get more in the political process. And I'm sorry, but when you have powerful interests throwing money in the political process, you're pretty much saying the First Amendment applies more to the wealthy and powerful than it does ordinary people. I have a problem with that. So if I have to sum up in one sentence, for me personally, and whatever any of you do on election day, that's between you and your conscience. And you will never get any lecture from me what you're going to do. But what I am going to do, and I'll tell you, I'm doing this for Ruth Bader Ginsburg. I'm going to go to the polls I'm going to hold my nose. I'm going to vote for Joe Biden. Then I'm going to go and take a bath after I violently vomit. And that's what I got to say about that. If you like what you heard, press like. If you hate it, press dislike. Either way, comment. As a free speech absolutist, it's my duty to say if you got a platform, utilize it, because we're all the muckrakers of our time. Like, dislike, comment, subscribe, share, and let me emphasize: subscribe, 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 and peace. And until next time, Bernie Sanders for president in the year 2024. And no, I wasn't kidding when I said that.